Well, hey, everybody, and welcome back into the Media Tavern, the place where me, Eric Oblander, and that guy, Todd Stanton, talk about all kinds of stuff that's going into our eyes, going into our ears, and coming off of our screens. Todd, how you doing today, buddy?
I am doing good. It's not so bad weather-wise today. It's a little, I don't know. I guess it's cold. So what am I saying? It's not good. It's a little cold.
We're getting snow finally. This weekend it's coming, so we'll have to really hunker down and watch some movies.
Okay. Works for me.
By the way, Todd, before we start, as usual, we talk about our wardrobes, and that shirt you're wearing is super awesome. Let's go. Tell us what you got.
$6 Million Man, baby. Lee Majors. One of my favorite shows growing up. I thought I saw several of them, but when I got the box set a couple years ago, started watching, I was like, I haven't seen any of these. I mean, I probably saw a handful of them. So
yeah, it was on for so long. There's so many episodes. Yeah. The Bigfoot episode always jumps to mind.
Bigfoot, yeah. There was a couple Bigfoot, and then Bigfoot was like bionic, or he was an alien. I don't know. It was just so weird. It got really weird as it went on. But I love it. I loved seeing bionics, rip through the skin, and I love the show. The opening of the show is the best opening of any show ever to this day.
We can rebuild him better, stronger, faster.
I'll watch it every time. It's the only show that, we're watching it with the family again, our second time going through it, and we never skip the beginning because the beginning is so cool. It's so awesome. What about your shirt? What do you
all right, but that brings me to my shirt, which I'm just rocking a Kiss t-shirt.
Yeah,
but did you have the $6 Million Man like action figure doll thing? Do you have? I guess it looks like I'm more. Todd is standing up from his chair. He's heading across his toy-filled room to grab. There it is. Booyah!
$6 Million Man, baby.
Yes. Excellent.
Yes.
So
you look through his eye and
roll up the skin, and you have the bionics in there.
Yep.
So here's the thing. Here's why this is a total accidental kismet. When I was a kid, I loved two things. I loved the band Kiss and the $6 Million Man, and I had a $6 Million Man figure and a Gene Simmons figure, and they would hung out with me all the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I could just say doll, I guess, but
I don't know. He was kind of like one of the first action figures. I mean, I guess G.I. Joe was, and then they had him. But
it was like G.I. Joe bionic style, like extra. But then Gene had his base, and I don't know why they were homies too. I think because I was really hung up on scale, so like the $6 Million Man and the Gene Simmons figures were both the same scale.
Oh, they were? I thought I thought they were shorter, the Kiss dolls.
No, they were like the same, that kind of posable thing.
Because you remember then they had the superhero line, like, so you had like Batman, Superman, and all that kind of stuff. And I think they were a little shorter.
Those were smaller.
Yeah.
And I was nuts for those too, though.
I had those too. I had a Shazam that I really loved. I mean, he was considered Captain Marvel back then. And my mom got mad at me for doing something once, and she ripped it apart. Like it's very traumatic in my mind.
I don't mean to laugh at your trauma.
I know.
That's
she was like ripping it apart, like, and I'm screaming. What a terrible story. Yeah,
that's horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, Mom, it didn't help because I don't even know what I did. I mean, so it's not like I won't repeat it because I don't even know what it is, but I do remember what you did.
So Todd, our wardrobes today reflect the nearest possible thing we could get to our topic today, which is our top 5 favorite superhero movies of all time.
Yeah.
I think you and I have had some discussions about this. What is your view on, I know you're a Star Wars guy, what is your view on like superhero movies in general?
Well, it's going to be unpopular. It's an unpopular stance. Everybody loves all these Marvel superhero movies. I'm tired of them, man. I mean, they bore me. I will say I have enjoyed like the origin stories of most of the characters, but all these movies with like all these superhero movies seem to now have like 14 people who have superpowers in one movie, and it isn't just about like, I remember the original Superman, the 1978. Yeah, you do. Look at there. This Fortress of Solitude.
I was waiting for you to say it. Boom.
You remember the original Superman? It was Superman against Lex Luthor.
Well, hang on. Let's not get too crazy here. We got our list. We got to
well, we're not talking about any list right now, but we're talking about the dichotomy of the breakdown of that. Of a movie like that, of a story. It was one Superman, one bad guy, all right? And now you have 30 superheroes fighting so many things, and buildings are blowing up. I mean, I think there's more people that die in all the destruction that happens when they have these super fights. Nobody's saving anybody. And there's like no normal people in these movies anymore. In 78 Superman, you had normal people that Superman swooped in and rescued, and he rescued a dog or a cat from a tree and all that kind of stupidness. I mean, it was just, I don't know. It was like one superhero, but now it's too much. It's too much. I mean, people probably
our
feel
Earth
that
is too safe. Todd Stanton says our Earth is too safe now.
Yeah, there's way too many superheroes. It was just like do you remember the movie Mystery Men, where Captain Amazing was so good at his job that there wasn't any crime. So
right.
So that's, you're right. It is kind of, maybe I am saying that all superheroes have gotten rid of all crime. I mean, they have to get people from other planets now to come and, rave havoc on our planet. But yeah, I'm not a superhero guy. So
well, then should we do this list?
Yeah, let's do it, because I think my list is a little unconventional. I mean, I do like the format still of a main person who's kind of like the victor, and then you've got the protagonist, antagonist in kind of super form. So I still like that. I just don't like the overcomplicatedness of all these movies today. So
that does bring up a good point of like, and I think that this gets addressed in many of the comics, the actual like comic books, but like there are some things that are kind of like, and of course this always comes up in conversations, but it's kind of like there are some superheroes that are like basically gods, and then some superheroes are kind of like rich dudes with like toys that they can play with. But they all kind of somehow are on the equal playing field. I don't know, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
We already know who we're talking about there. But
yeah, Todd, are we ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to let you kick it off. What's your number 5, dude?
Okay, my number 5 is not going to be very conventional. I'm just going to let you know. It's telling you right off the bat. It is the movie Unbreakable.
Oh, that's a good one. That's hero related. I get it.
It's purely hero related in a very subtle kind of weird way. It's not until the other sequels came out where they made it like, more on the nose. But I think Unbreakable is one of those films that is just totally, I hate using this word because everyone uses it all the time, underrated. It underwatched, underappreciated. A lot of unders there. I think that movie is so beautifully made. There's so many cool things that M. Night did in his vision of what this story is about that just go unlooked. And it's a slower movie, and so it's not always one that I gravitate towards seeing multiple times, even though I have. It's just a wonderful movie every time I get into it. I just love all the little nuances to it. So it's and the story I think is very sweet between the husband and the wife, especially if you've seen any of the deleted scenes. I think it just really fills out the story a little more. But that's my number 5.
I think that's a great pick. That movie has a lot of nuances to it, like you were saying, and I think part of just the idea of that movie in general is really great. The unbreakable versus the completely like shattered, and I think Bruce Willis plays such a great, like, I mean, he really was at one point a really great leading man. And that movie, I really think, was kind of one of his last, like, really carrying the water on that, you know.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, brings me to me. My number 5 is 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
James Gunn's kind of like first run at the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. When this came out, it was kind of a small comic. No one knew what the hell it was or what they were talking about or how this would relate to anything that had already been seen in the MCU. But when this thing came out, I saw it in the theater right away. And you know that feeling you have when you first see Star Wars and you're dropped into this world and you just want to eat up every single thing you see. Like it all is brand new and all exciting. That's how I felt when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy the first time. It's that everything is incredible. Like every little thing and all the lights and all the colors, the acting, the characters, it all just clicked. And it really became like a darling of all the superhero fans because it went from, I mean, many people read the books, knew about it, but like to have this became such an integral part of what became the MCU story. But when they first came out, I mean, first of all, it's funny and edgy. I love the use of music in it is great with Peter Quill's Walkman and, tons of the soundtrack that became a real hot thing. And it still is like a playlist that a lot of people go to. I just, the everything about it, Rocket Raccoon and Bautista's character, I mean, like everything about it is funny. It's really wry and it's super James Gunn-ish. I mean, that's like his fingerprints all over it. But I still go to it. I watched it with my son the other day and he was the same way I was, like totally everything about it just lit him up. So that's my number 5, Guardians of the Galaxy.
I saw a trailer for that probably a year before, or I saw a teaser, I think. It was really early on. I want to say it was like a year before the movie came out. And I remember at that point even getting tired of the whole MCU. But when I saw that trailer, I said to my wife right away, I said, that's going to be a big hit. And she's like, okay. I mean, she like scoffed at it. Like, and then, yeah, they loved it. I mean, I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as you did. But it was fun. I mean, I didn't care for the sequel, but that's just me.
I think that brings up a good point though, that you said, which is that I think that Guardians kind of like, reset what was going on with Marvel movies at that time and kind of like broadened everyone's expectations and what could be done, taking it to space basically. And, and adding a lot more humor and a lot more edginess to it. So yeah, I get what you're saying about that.
And it didn't feel like a Marvel movie at the time. Now I know now that it is, and I know it was a Marvel movie, but it didn't feel like it was a part of that whole thing. It did feel like it's its own, subcategory. But, and no one really felt like a superhero per se in it. But, yeah. So, all right,
Yeah, I think that's true too. It's not like hero. I mean, it's not like superheroes with capes. It's like different kind of characters. So,
yeah.
All right, who goes next? Do you want to do snake draft where I go next, or you want to go?
Well, we're tossing the ball back and forth, right?
All right, kid. It's up to you. Let's go. Number 4.
Number 4, Black Adam. No, I'm joking.
That was excellent.
I was
like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
That was a horrible movie. I couldn't even sit through it. I fell asleep in 15.
I didn't even try. But we know it's not on our lists.
But the predecessor to that is actually, I really enjoyed the Shazam movie, the 2019 Shazam. I really enjoyed it. Is this your
number 4?
That's my number 4.
All right. Tell me why.
I grew up with Shazam. I mean, Captain Marvel. He was Captain Marvel back then. Not this girl movie. He was Captain Marvel. Even though it was on DC. I never read any comics. I was never a comic guy. There used to be a TV show, Shazam, and in the 70s, and I used to watch that. It was on Saturday mornings. And my dad had turned me on to Shazam, Shazam and Superman, and we had when we were talking earlier about the little dolls. I had those little dolls too. I think I had a Batman, and I don't know if I had a Superman. My brother may have, but I had a Captain Marvel, Shazam. It's funny that they changed that whole he's no longer called Captain Marvel thing, because he's called Shazam now, I guess, right? Like, but he can't really introduce himself to anybody. He can't say, "Hi, I'm Shazam," because I'm sorry, now I'm Billy Batson. I'm sorry. Let me switch back. So, but I really enjoyed that movie. It had kind of the funness. There's a new word. Look it up in the dictionary.
Funness
of the original Superman to me. Like it was just, again, primarily one guy against one bad guy equation, until it got towards the end of the movie where all the family members are superheroes. And I know that that's in the comics, but that's where I kind of shut off at that point at the end. But I enjoyed the movie. It's kind of like, I know this is almost blasphemy. I never saw Big, but I understood the concept of Big. And it was almost like the superhero version of Big, what this movie was. So I enjoyed it.
Okay, that's a good description. Yeah, I like that.
I know it's not a lot of people's favorite, but I know my older son didn't care for it at all, but I don't care. I liked it.
Yeah, well, this is your list, not his.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
All right, good pick, man. That's good, number 4. My number 4 is something that might be on your list. I'm not sure. It is from 1990. It's Sam Raimi's Darkman.
No, but I did pass it up in my list. I looked up a list of superhero movies to kind of remind myself what's out there.
Yeah.
And I did see that. I do remember watching that. Go ahead. Give us your thoughts.
Much like Sam Raimi movies overall, when this came out, it was super crazy edgy at the time, and like a really weird idea, like kind of a made up fictional, not that comic book aren't made up, but this was not an established character like, Superman or something.
Yeah.
And this movie, when I remember seeing it and thinking of how dark it was, but also how much it felt like reading a comic book when you watch it. Like the way it's made feels like pages of a comic book turning.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the way it's framed and shot, the special effects. Now, I've revisited this movie recently, and it doesn't super hold up visually wise as much as I remember it. Because, like Liam Neeson is the star, and he, basically he plays a character that kind of a revenge tour. He gets left for dead and has to go back and avenge whenever. But then he's wearing when he becomes as the hero, he's pretty much like a ripped up, mummified human. I mean, it's not like some handsome, superhero.
Yeah.
And that was what I thought was really cool too. It was really super Raimi-ish looking, with just the eyes up close, that lighting where they just kind of cast the light across his eyes. And the Durant character as the bad guy, he's just super terrible. Like he's just a total dick, and you just hate him, Yeah. And so I thought that was well done. You really feel bad for Liam Neeson's character. You really root for Darkman in this, kind of twisted way. And it was completely kind of like made up, which I thought was cool too. So that's my number 4.
I liked that movie when it came out. I mean, I saw it years later. I think I rented it or something. I didn't see it in the theater.
Yeah, it lived on I think they used to show it on USA or something. But yeah.
Yeah, the guy with what was the bad guy's name?
Durant,
and he had the cigar chopper, and he was cutting people's fingers off.
Yeah, I mean that was dark, man.
It was dark. It was dark, man. So
it was dark, man. All right, so what's your number 3?
Well, I have a feeling that our lists are going to kind of cross at some point, because we do like possible. A lot of them. So I'll tell you what mine is, and if it's on your list, we can discuss it later. But my third one is it was a trilogy, and I kind of grouped them together all as one big movie, but it's Christopher Nolan's Batman series. Is that
all right? Hold space for that.
Okay.
It's coming up on my list
That's
a little higher
3.
up. So when we get to it, let's get into it.
Okay. All right.
All right, cool. My number 3 is Avengers Endgame, which I know is not on your list.
Nope.
So Endgame was, in fact, the Endgame to this 22 movie run that Marvel did. It was like this 3.5 hour epic. It kind of wrapped the whole thing up, and it did it very well. It's done by the Russo brothers. Came out in a magical time, Todd. Let me take you back to 2019. Before anybody was worried about any crazy pandemic stuff. We were all just cramming into a movie theater for 4 hours. So Endgame is great. Everyone's seen it. It's, got the highlights. It's got the battle scene to end all battle scenes for superhero stuff. Pretty much exactly what you were saying you hate. It's got like 100 heroes fighting 1 million bad guys.
There isn't any normal people in that movie. But I think though that this movie really carries the ball to the end zone really well. I love the backstories. I think the way that they build the characters, and there's so many things. Spoiler alert: the death of Iron Man. But the death of Iron Man made everybody weep a little bit. I will say I enjoyed that movie. I did see that one.
Well, you're only human. It's awesome.
I mean, sure. I know it's the popular opinion that you have to love that movie, but I don't always I don't go with the popular opinion, but I did watch it. I wasn't like pressured by anyone that this is a great film and all that. I don't want to hear that. Let me just decide on my own. And I did enjoy it. I mean, for what it is. I mean, if I got to watch a movie with 1 million superheroes and a bad guy that won't quit, and everybody's got drama between themselves, I guess I'll watch that. But yeah,
there is a lot of drama, a lot of soap opera stuff. Not as much as another. Well, I won't get into it because I don't want to blow my list. But
all right.
It ended up everything. It kind of, sort of, Marvel kind of shot themselves in the foot with this because they made such a giant beloved epic, and they haven't been able to match it since. And this came out. Now it's going on, 4 or 5 years ago, and they're still stubbing their toe trying to make anything as good as this. Meanwhile, the Russo brothers have made a bunch of trash too. So I don't know. I don't know why the magic was perfect between them. But
what else have they done? It's terrible.
So they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that movie Gray Man. No one really liked that movie that much, even though everyone likes them and likes Ryan Gosling. But So that's my number 3 is Avengers Endgame.
All right.
Number 2, dude.
Number 2.
We're getting there.
It may not be. At one point, it was very popular, and then for some reason, people have turned against it on some level. But I still really enjoy the original Matrix movie.
That is a surprise entrant. That is a great call. I love that.
And it wasn't on any superhero list too, and I was
it's not really a superhero movie per se, but I like your thinking.
It kind of is. I mean, he is the one. Like it has the same kind of storyline, almost Star Wars, I guess. Whereas the character that you don't expect to be the superhero, or he's the reluctant superhero, I guess is what the trope would be. It's kind of a perfect story. I mean, it's told perfectly. The movie is, of course, expertly done. The special effects at the time were groundbreaking, and they've almost kind of gotten away from that, bullet time kind of thing. Remember, there was a time where it was like you saw it all the time. Then after,
bullet time, man. It was like we didn't have a bullet time thing.
It doesn't even exist anymore. which is fine because
you can kind of do it on your phone now. It's sort of like, it's become like everyone figured out the trick.
Well, to do it right, you have to have all these.
Well, I'm not saying you can make Matrix level things on your phone,
but yeah, I mean, so
you might be able to. You're pretty good.
But I really still enjoy that movie, and he's kind of a superhero of sorts, where he does save the day. He does actually save humanity at the end of that film. So that's my number 2.
That's a great pick. When that movie came out, it was the mind blower. There is, what if I told you there is no spoon? That whole thing.
Yeah,
and it was such a game changer.
It was unlike anything else we've ever seen. I've talked often about the times in movie histories that really kind of like shaped the future. We think of like Jurassic Park. We think of the original Star Wars. But The Matrix was one of those films that just completely changed like how we could do things. Like there was really no that kind of like ended any boundary that could ever be done. Exactly.
It kind of opened up the door for kind of abstract stuff. Yeah. Yep. I agree. Yeah, I think the Wachowskis haven't done a lot since then, except for 2 more or 3 more of those. I mean, there's other stuff, but
the other stuff I didn't care for.
I felt like the movies kind of got progressively less, payoff as they came out. But at the time, I mean, I remember going to see that movie 2, 3, 4 times in the theater. Like, let's go.
Now,
I missed something. I got to see it.
That's the thing. I didn't see it in the theater because I knew nothing about it. I was actually that year. I was trying to recover from my wife at the time was cheating with a friend of mine, and
this is taking a turn.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm just saying that was a dark time there.
Yeah, man.
And but it was also a year I was looking forward to at the same time. It was 1999, and Star Wars Phantom Menace was coming out, and I was very excited about that. And so a movie like The Matrix kind of was not on my radar. I knew nothing about it, and I heard people talk about it, but it was just like, okay.
Well, it kind of did have like an indie vibe to it. I mean, it wasn't. I'm sure it was a huge.
And it was very dark looking.
They were unknown. It wasn't like it was made by a Lucas or Spielberg or something.
Yeah, and it was dark. So it was like it just if you saw a trailer, it was just very like, I don't know what I'm looking at. And it really didn't give away what the movie was. Not no pun intended. But what rabbit hole you were going to go down, It was like, it's such a great movie. And then I'm one of the few people that enjoy the sequels. I don't rank them as high as the original Matrix, but I like 2. 2 is fun. 3 is crazy. And then I enjoyed the new one, the 4th one. I thought it was a fun ride. So I know it's an unpopular, position to be in, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're into that world, the sequels it's the only other thing you can find that's remotely like it. You know what I mean? Like there are some things that like it, but...
So anyway, that's my number 2.
That's a great number 2. Great pick. That's a surprise entry. I like it. That was a good one.
Thanks.
My number 2, I bet is on your list, or I thought it would be. So back in 1989, there was this crazy idea to get a comedian and make him the Batman.
Oh, the original Batman. Yeah.
So the Batman 1, not 1, but Batman, the movie. Not Tim Batman Burton. The movie,
Tim
actually.
Burton's
That's the Adam
Batman.
West one.
Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah, Tim Burton's Batman. So, yes.
Agreed.
Tim, tell me what you think about, tell me your thoughts on Batman.
I mean, it's yours. It's your
I know,
pick,
but I'm trying to shake it up.
I love that movie. I mean, and it was a toss up for me to pick Nolan's, cinematic beautiness versus Tim Burton's goofy, take on, Batman and the Joker. I mean, I love Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I know the Joker's been done by so many people now. Nicholson is just so wild in that, and just we quote lines from it all the time still.
And it really was like the perfect, like it totally matched his Hollywood persona at the time, his kind of swagger and his kind of I don't give a shit kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
It had that kind of swagger to it where he's kind of, like wait till they get a load of me, you know, that thing. It's perfect. I mean, that is literally why
boop, boop, boop. It's just so weird. I love it. Like some of the things he does is not really explained, and that's okay. I love that he's just so quirky and weird.
Yeah, because he's crazy, right?
But then I loved Burton's view of whatever time period that is. You've got you had 80s cars, but then you had the stylistic, the buildings look like they're from the 20s, or just the architecture, versus what you didn't really know what year it was, and it just seemed like a Rubik's Cube version of different decades. Like here we are. This is a messed up version of some time, and I loved it. Billy D. Williams in it. I mean, you only think of Billy D. Williams as like, Lando Calrissian. It's like every time you watch the movie, he's like, oh, Lando's in this.
Lando. Yeah, and I mean, Kim Basinger, like, I mean, right at her apex, her peak, like that was her time, man.
Yeah,
she was lights out. But yeah, I remember seeing a preview for this movie before it came out. I don't know what I was seeing, but I remember everyone in the whole theater was like, Mr. Mom, Michael Keaton is going to be Batman? What the hell are you talking about? And it worked. It worked because Michael Keaton is that good, first of all. He's likable but menacing. He's funny but serious. He's got all the things.
Yeah.
And it kind of like set the tone for what Marvel ended up doing too, which is like mixing, I don't want to say comedy, but kind of mixing like moods, like kind of like the way that you already perceive a comedian as Batman really changed the way you think of it,
Oh yeah, and, I mean, because we grew up with the '60s version of Batman with the bam, pow, and all that kind of
right. And this was going to be this dark take on it, and you're like, dark take, but you got like the guy from like Mr. Mom and whatever, and he had just come off of Beetlejuice, which was like this giant, crazy, manic, zany movie.
Also Tim Burton.
And it just seemed really absurd that he would play a serious superhero.
Yeah.
But it worked, and it worked great. I mean, the way that movie feels, I just watched it recently. It was kind of a tie between this and the second one, because they're both great. Batman Returns probably has a little more meat on the bone when it comes to the bad guy situation, because you've got Danny DeVito and all the stuff.
Batman doesn't do anything in that movie. He just sits and talks on the phone mostly.
But so I just love I love the reveal of Batman, the first time you see him on the rooftop, and the Danny Elfman music was great. It really was like another game changer for me. Like, I saw it in the theater many times. So that's my number 2.
I don't know if you remember, there was discussion of Tim Burton doing a Superman.
I did not know that.
Yes, and it's fascinating, dude. There's actually a documentary about it. I have the documentary.
Wait a minute, is this the Nicolas Cage Superman thing?
Yes.
I know of this.
I loved it. I loved the description of it when I read it in a magazine years earlier. It was going to be Nicolas Cage again. Somebody, what? I mean, we did that with Batman. What? Michael Keaton, Batman? So I was on board because it's Tim Burton. And it was, his suit was actually going to have, the S was going to be clear so that you could see his yellow glowing guts inside it. And I thought, this movie I am on board for. I'm not a superhero purist, a comic book purist. So if Tim Burton wants to give me Superman with glowing yellow guts, I am on board, baby.
That's great. I love it. I mean, how fun would that have been? Who knows? could get funded now and be made. You know,
I've got the documentary. You should watch it. I'll give it to you.
We are going to. I will watch that for sure.
Dude, it's just they show scenes. They show artist renditions of what this was going to be in this movie. Man, it would have been great. I really, really wished it was made completely, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It lost people's interests.
Instead we got like Bad Lieutenant 2 Port of Call or something from Nicolas Cage. I mean, that's where his head was at.
I still like Nicolas Cage.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
My number one you had at number 3, I believe. And that is, I'm just going to single one out.
Okay.
Of the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy.
Let me guess.
So my top 2 are Batman movies.
Let me
even
guess.
though you know everyone's talking Marvel is so wonderful, but my number 1 and 2 are Batman. The Dark Knight.
Yeah, so I was gonna guess.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of the crown jewel of the series. Although the first one is great, and the third one has got its definite charm. It's kind of a mess, but the second one is, I would say, as close to a perfect movie and even a superhero movie or an adventure movie or a heist movie or whatever that you can get. It's so dark and so like seedy. I just love it so much. Heath Ledger, again, another, you know, kind of, what would be the word I'm looking for? Controversial choice as a character, as the Joker. And, it just, I mean, he became what the future of bad guys would end up being in superhero movies, with his completely freaked out, completely dark, insane, literally insane twist on the Joker. Probably more towards what the Joker in the comic books is, which is just a complete lunatic, complete sociopath. Possibly the best opening of any movie in this decade, with the heist.
Cool. Yeah.
That heist is lights out with the confusion, and none of the guys know who the Joker is, who hired them. They all know they're just supposed to be on this thing, and everything's blowing up. And a lot of people, you know, bump up against the Christian Bale, his Batman voice, but I thought it was pretty cool. And this movie, it's not quite as intense as it gets later, but it's still pretty prominent with the ground Batman. Oh, now I'm Bruce Wayne. Oh, okay. I would have never known.
Yeah.
I'm Batman. I'm Bruce Wayne.
That's how all the Batmans are. They just have to talk like this, and they're all
cover
of a
it
sudden
up,
Batman.
cover up your face. Like if
I'm
you could just
Batman.
put like so. But yeah, so Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan, you had it on your list, and we kind of leapt over it. Tell me your thoughts on those movies.
Again, I love Christopher Nolan, so pretty much anything that he does, I'm on board. I mean, there's only been a few that I scratch my head on, but this was, it's probably the only movies that, of his that he's not dealing with time. There's always some, you know, aspect of time that he's obsessed about.
But it does start with the heist with the
true
with the watch.
And
so,
I'm sure if I look closely, there's
I'm sure
all
right.
kinds of time related things in it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I will say with the first movie, Batman Begins, it was just okay to me. It felt like there was a lot of lead up to get him to become Batman. Like
there was a lot.
Time.
It was a long journey to get there. Yep, I agree.
And I remember watching it and not really enjoying it. You know, when I was watching, it was okay. But I really felt, I don't know the comics at all. So when Liam Neeson's character goes from being, his master or his teacher, to being the bad guy, Ra Ghul or whatever the heck his name is.
Ra Ghul. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ra's al Ghul ends up being kind of like a important character throughout, but sort of like almost a subplot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's the bad guy and he's got to fight, his master. The training was intense. But when you got to 2, it is a really good, it's almost like the first one isn't needed, The Batman Begins wasn't needed at all. You could have just. It didn't need to be a trilogy. I mean, I'm sure some studio thought it was going to be awesome for him to do 3 of them, but it could have just been Dark Knight. Dark Knight is great. I mean, I like Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, it was fun. The effects were cool. The way it ended was nice. But yeah, I love those films. I mean, I'm not obsessed about them as a lot of people get about them, but I do really, really enjoy that movie. I don't feel like I'm saying very much.
I think that the thing about the Batman movies in general, but those, is that a lot of people ding the Marvel movies for having what's called a bad guy problem or a villain problem, where they don't really have good villains. And I think in each of these movies, the first one kind of is more of like the rise of Batman, but like or the creation of Batman. But then with Bane in the last one and Joker in the second one, it's really got, I mean, the bad guys are awesome. Like they're really good. And I mean, not good as in good-hearted, but like excellently crafted bad guys. So
yeah, they are believable, threatening, menacing, scary bad guys. And that's how you want your bad guys. That's one thing I think I mentioned to you off mic the one time. With the Marvel movies, to me, one of the things I don't like about it is, first of all, there's so much drama between all the superheroes. They have most of the movies are the superheroes not getting along, and then it's a comedy fest with all that. There's a lot of laughing and I don't get. It's not supposed to be a bad guy and good guy scenario. It's supposed to be like a threat is happening. We only have time to laugh, but one of the things in their movies is that the bad guys are almost likable, and I don't like that feeling. I don't like feeling like I like the bad guys. I mean, I'm not talking about like Darth Vader. He's so he's scary, and I like him because he's scary. I'm not saying that kind of like. I'm saying like we're talking about with Nolan's antagonists, is that they are bad people. You don't like them. Like Joker is such a demented guy. You may like the performance, but you do not like the character at all.
Well, I mean, and she's just terrifying. Like it's actually
terrifying.
Scary.
Yep.
And Bane is pretty scary too.
Yeah. I mean, they're just all like guys you don't want to piss off. So, that's what I like. That's the difference, I think, to me. But yeah. All right. So that's our lists.
No, that's not our list. We're waiting for number 1 from you, my man. The whole reason for the season.
Everyone knows the number 1. You even know.
Let's go. What is your number 1, Todd?
It's not the number 1. It's the only one. The only one that ever
Get on that soapbox, kid. Let's go.
Perfect superhero movie. It is the 1978 version of Superman.
Yeah.
Round of applause. And
there you go.
I know you love that one too. You said
I love it.
What? You didn't put it on your list. Why?
Because you and I talked about this, and this was your soapbox, and the whole reason for this. I didn't want to blow out your. I didn't want to step on your thing, man.
Well, thanks.
But I do
know
love
you love it too. It's. I think it's so well done. It still holds up when you watch it. Yes, it's dated. I mean, and Christopher Reeve's suit does not look as macho, with all the kind of extra doodads that they've added to the Supermans.
You just said macho and doodads. That's awesome. I
I'm going to trademark those. I don't think anyone's trademarked them. But I love just how simple the movie is. It's simple origin. I love when Superman comes to Earth and Glenn Ford plays his adoptive dad, and to this day that the heart attack sequence that happens it still rings out to me. Like he grabs his left arm and he goes, oh no, and just passes out. And every time if my arm hurts for any reason, I always think of that scene, like, oh no, that movie just made a big impression on me as a kid. And I think that's what it comes to, a lot of it. The things that we like really are the things that made an impression upon us when we were kids, and then it kind of radiates out from there. But everything about that movie is just fun. Gene Hackman, Lex Luthor. I mean, That
Talk about an excellent bad guy. Man,
Yeah.
you just want to smack that dude in the face the whole movie.
Yeah, he's ultra confident, and there is
great.
bits of humor in there, not like the silly fest of Marvel movies now, but you have Otis, Ned Beatty, just being the doofus, and some of those scenes are still funny, and not rip roaring funny, and I have to say, as a close companion to that movie is Superman 2, but not the one that came out in the theater. The Richard Donner re-edit that was done I think it's about within the last 10 years. That re-edit is way better, in my opinion, than the original Superman 2. Superman 2 is kind of dopey. Especially with the three bad guys and
General Zod and they're coming in on the glass piece of glass.
The Phantom Zone or whatever it was called, and then the big guy of the three of them is always kind of the big doofus, and he's like trying to do silly things, and it was almost like the comic relief. I didn't like that. That when you make your bad guys comical, it takes the thread away, and they seem doofusy. But if you watch the Donner edit, have you ever seen the Donner edit?
No, I haven't. I've got to see it because I like that second one. So I would probably really like.
I will give you it. It's really good. They actually they got rid of Superman's mom and the hologram. That was dumb. They actually have old footage of Marlon Brando being. Talking to him. They replaced all that with the Marlon Brando footage.
Yeah, I mean, Brando in the first one it was such a big deal that he was in this too.
Yeah. And he's so powerful in it. I mean, his performance it's hard to come close. I mean, I like Russell Crowe when he played Jor-El in the newer Superman movie. I was like, not the same, dude.
I mean, can you imagine, like, probably because it was Richard Donner, but could you imagine at the time, getting the most important actor walking the planet and be like, okay, so here's the deal. You're an alien and your son is a superhero, and I want you to, and his Brando, it's flipping Colonel Kurtz right there, and the Wild One, and you're kind of like
Godfather.
But he to his credit, he played it straight, and he made it great. Yeah.
He believed in that character, and you felt that he was, what's he say to him in the Fortress of South? I am your father. And like, he says it with, like, he's not acting. He says it with all complete confidence, and everything about his performance in that is so
he says
stellar.
it and that's the reason you get like Marlon Brando. You know what I mean? Like that's why you get Brando, because he can, that's awesome. Yeah. If he bought into that role, So anyways, that to me will always be, again, could be because what I grew up with. All right. Hey, great pick. Quick shout out to Margot Kidder as Lois Lane in that movie. Super great, edgy, funny. I think the chemistry between her and Christopher Reeves, it felt pretty legit. Like
Jackie Cooper playing Perry White.
Yeah, come on, man. You got Jackie Cooper, you got Ned Beatty, you got
God spoke to Moses.
you got Terrence Stamp, Gene Hackman, Glenn Ford. It's a wild lineup, man.
It is. It is a great lineup. And to think that, the sad thing is, Christopher Reeves, Superman, the embodiment of Superman. Like, anyone that even tries to be Superman thinks of Christopher Reeve, even to this day.
Yeah.
And he fell off a horse and died. He didn't die. Well, he didn't die. He got paralyzed from it. But it's like, I felt so bad for the dude, because he was Superman and he fell off a horse. He was paralyzed.
And he really seemed like a good guy and really good. And it was kind of a sad way to have it.
It was a sad
way
thing,
out.
But he made the best of it.
I thought he was a great Superman. I think he'd really, again, kind of like we were talking about with Brando, he took that part and played it, I don't want to say straight, but he played it to where it wasn't like, well, I really wish I was doing something else.
Yeah.
Like, he played it really well. Like, he bought it,
Yep. Well, it had to have been an honor.
I guess is the,
It had to have been an honor to be chosen, I'm sure there was a million people that they,
it was a big deal when that movie came out. It was huge production. It was like, holy smokes, we're doing this. One thing
you know who the writer was? You know who the writer was?
No.
It was Mario Puzo, who came up for The Godfather. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
maybe that explains the Brando connection.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. It was probably I'm sure that helped, in getting this funded and getting it big. So
probably, yeah, because you're coming right off of Godfather in 77 or whatever it was.
Yep.
So one of the things I want to mention about that movie that I have noticed my whole life of watching it is that the opening credits are really cool, but they are really long.
Yeah, I remember as a kid.
It feels like it's like a 20-minute open, man.
I know. And
with
then
the letters
even that, when you get through the credits, it takes you quite a long time to get down to the planet. It's like,
yes.
It's like, is this movie going? I feel it's half over already.
Yes, that is exactly.
You know what? To this day, I enjoy watching that opening credits because I remember as a kid, it did build anticipation and it felt so big. I mean, it felt big seeing those credits. Like, we are in for a big movie here, and it didn't disappoint.
Great pick. Fun list. I think your list was definitely eclectic, and we only had one crossover, which was amazing.
Yeah.
I think you and I figured we'd have at least one or two more.
I thought so too.
But we didn't reveal our list, except for that number one. I knew, because that's how we got this whole idea started.
Now, I do have a couple of honorable mentions. Do you?
Let's do it. What do you got? Me too.
Okay. Mine don't necessarily fall into the superhero genre. I mean, it's a trope, I guess, but they are part of that trope. So one of them is The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix.
Okay.
And Robert De Niro. I mean, it's kind of a darker movie. And it was funny because it was directed by Todd Phillips, who did The Hangover, so you didn't know really what to expect. And there's been a lot of discussion about that film, whether or not it was a dream or, is this really the Joker from the Batman Joker world, or was he just some guy who wanted to pretend like he was?
Yeah.
I mean, so I love that there's a lot of, I guess there's going to be a sequel. God,
that's a very polarizing movie.
Yes.
I know people who, like you, think it's great, and I know people who absolutely despise that movie.
I'm sure. But I like it because it's a lot like Taxi Driver. It's very
Scorsese-ish, yeah.
Yeah, and and it's funny. Todd Phillips said that Taxi Driver wasn't an influence on it, but then you hire Robert De Niro, so
not
it's
an
like
accident. And also it's a bit of the King of Comedy in there. The movie The King of Comedy, the Scorsese movie.
I've never seen it, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah, there's a bit of that in there too.
Okay, I'll have to see that. I feel like I've seen most Scorsese movies, so I'm always surprised when I hear one that I haven't seen yet. So
De Niro's in it, and he plays like a hack comedian who ends up kidnapping a talk show host and doing like a performance in his basement.
Oh, okay.
It's awesome. It's one of the weirdest, funniest movies ever. It's
all right,
super great.
I got to see it. Another one is Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, is what the subtitle is. Taking Michael Keaton, who was Batman, to be this Birdman, and he obviously has issues. Everyone in that movie has issues, but it's all filmed, or gives the appearance, it's all filmed in one shot.
Yeah, it's like a big oneer. Yeah,
yeah, and it's really broken down into about 6 or 7 one shots, but it's highly choreographed. That's not a word, but I added it to the dictionary now. Choreographed.
Add it in there. Sure, we got a whole list going.
And that director has gone on to do what's his name, Alejandro Nutru. I don't even know how you say his last name, but he did like The Revenant,
Yep.
which I thought was
Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, yeah.
yeah, I thought that was a great movie too. So and there was that. All right, and then my last one is V for Vendetta.
Good one. That's a great. Now that I think that might be I think that's based on a graphic novel.
Yeah, I think so. But that's also the Wachowski brothers too. So that was I think kind of a follow up after their Matrix collection there. After that, some of the movies they did were kind of dumb. The one with
but that movie is excellent. Yes.
I love that movie. It's. I remember showing it to my mom when she was still alive, and I didn't know what she was going to think of it, but she loved it too. I mean, because it's got little pockets of pure darkness in it, and I didn't know how she would take it, but she loved it. So I don't know. As a kid, I always liked. Mom always introduced us to like B movies, The Blob and War of the Worlds and all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
And we used to watch on Creature Feature. You remember? If you were in the Toledo area when you were a kid, Creature Feature out of Detroit on Channel 50. Yeah, it was like in the afternoon on Saturdays. It would always be like these B movies, and I'd love B movies because of it. And so it was always kind of like, if I took a movie to my mom, whatever it was, I really hoped that she would like it because she introduced us to a lot of the crappy movies I like now. So, anyways, those are my 3 honorable mentions. How about you?
Good. Those are great picks. So I've got a couple. I'll just go through them real quick. One of them is Infinity War, which is the kind of the movie before Endgame.
Okay.
Which a lot of people think is actually the best, technically the best, like Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. It kind of sets up the end. There's a lot of important stuff that happens in it. I think it's really, really good without the baggage of the last one. It's got some great battle scenes in it. Looks amazing. Like the way it looks is phenomenal. The acting is really fun. I think it's a good one.
Okay.
I had Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Never saw it.
Which is the animated
cartoon
movie that came out a while back.
I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Oh, it's phenomenal. Love the way it looks.
Oh.
It kind of, I think in a weird way, kind of backdoor opened up this whole multiverse thing that Marvel is really leaning into now.
Makes sense.
Because they kind of figured out that they can retcon lots of stuff for basically whenever they want. So
endless possibilities now.
Yeah, and then one more, another animated one. I got a ton of them, but whatever. Another one is The Incredibles, which I still love to this day. It's so thoughtfully made. It's really well made. The story is great. The voice acting is great. The way it looks is super cool. It's sometimes those movies don't work visually. They kind of look boring. But this movie is really considered. They considered every part of it, the whole backstory, and it's kind of like a spin-off of The Watchmen almost, with like these kind of failed superheroes, but it's really great.
It's all a family. So I mean, there's that aspect to it too.
Well, great lists all around. Good. I think those are good mentions.
Yours are good mentions. Those are great. I mean, as a backup, as a supplement to the ones that I could see why you would have wrestled with.
I had Superman in there too, but I figured I'd just let you take the lead on that.
I thought we were both going to collide on Superman there together at number 1, and like I picked it too, but it didn't go that way.
There's a bunch more that I had, but I didn't want to. I wanted to use some of the ones that I think of the most whenever I think of superhero movies, and that's kind of where I pulled them from. So
yeah, that's good. That and
all right, cool, man. Let me. I think it's time to jump out of here and head to our corners. What do you think about that?
Go for yours.
All right, so today on my corner, I'm going to talk about a show that pretty much the world is talking about right now, and that is the video game that's been adapted to a TV show on HBO Max, a show called The Last of Us.
Okay.
Pedro Pascal stars, kind of a post-apocalyptic, what happens when the world gets overrun by a plague, and, what happens along the way, and all the way people adapt, and how they live and kind of and don't live, and kind of really delves and leans into the idea of while there is a plague of zombies, actually mushroom zombies, that really it's more the humans that we have to fear more than anything else. But the opening, there's only been one episode out so far. I think we'll probably circle back to this.
Yeah.
But there are so many things I liked about this show. Pedro Pascal's character is really good. I thought the chaos that ensued when they were trying to escape. Now, by the way, spoiler alerts, but of course you know that.
Yeah, you know that on the show.
Yeah. The chaos that ensues when they're leaving Austin when the plague kind of kicks off.
Yeah.
Is I think one of the better video game adaptations into a visual form that I've ever seen. Just the planes falling out of the sky, people screaming, and there's death and destruction. It was like super great, very disorienting, terrifying at the same time. I thought it was great. There's a scene with when the early plague comes on where there's a soft focus of a grandma sitting in the chair behind the young girl, and she starts kind of doing this crazy mouth thing.
Yeah.
That is one of the scariest, out of focus, creepy things I've ever seen.
Pretty unnerving.
And then also, I think the very opening intro where they kind of do this cold open, kind of a retro talk show from the 1960s where they kind of explain how possibly this could happen in the future. What if the Earth warmed up by 1 degree? It would be, mushroom spores that would end up killing us. And so I'm looking forward to the rest of this series. I know everyone else is watching it too. It's not a big, it's not a real wild pick, but I'm really excited about it. What'd you think about The Last of Us?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting. I mean, I loved Walking Dead up until the 6th or 7th season, and I had to cut out because it just got repetitious.
As soon as Rick left the show, I kind of lost. It lost it for me.
Yeah, it must have been right around the same time. It just, I mean, like you were saying, it wasn't. The show was about not zombies anymore. It was about dealing with the people dealing with the zombie situation.
Yeah,
like zombies weren't a threat anymore. Like that was the least of everyone's concern because if you saw one, you just shot it, and they all walk slow. So.
Yeah, in this, it's like they're fast zombies. Which, man, get out of here with the fast zombies. That's terrifying to me.
Well, that aspect of it kind of reminded me of like the Danny Boyle 28 Days Later movie where the zombies or the infected ran really fast. And that was...
Fast zombies are scary, man.
That's a scary movie. I think that's a scary movie. That's a creepy movie. Even though I enjoyed all the aspects of what you just talked about there, I was hoping for something a little more. I mean, this reminded me of, like I said, The Walking Dead, and then with the girl that has to be protected, that reminded me of Children of Men, if you ever saw that film.
Yeah, man, that's a great
phenomenal
movie. Flick. Yep.
Where women aren't getting pregnant anymore, and because of whatever reason, and they have to protect this one girl who is pregnant, and you would think that everybody would celebrate that, but there were people that were against it, and it was a well done movie, and that was another movie that was like there was a lot of one take shots.
Yeah, a lot of like it looked like wartime footage, right?
Yeah, but I mean they had the camera. In a one, if you remember the shot in the car, there was a group of people in the car, and the camera keeps turning. The camera's like in the center of this car, and there's like 6 people in the car. The camera's turning, and I guess the actors had to duck. As they had to choreograph this whole thing. I don't know. That movie is amazing to watch just for the choreography. But
yeah, I agree.
But I was expecting a little more out of this movie, out of the show. Maybe. As it goes on, maybe there's more to it. I hope it isn't just zombies and protecting the girl. I hope there's more to it. I know nothing about the video game.
Me either.
So I'm not against it by any means. I just hope it becomes a little more than the traditional trope of zombie films.
Yeah, understood. All right,
So,
well, that's my quarter. That'll
love
be we'll see how things unfold there with that show. We'll probably circle back.
Sure.
How's the weather on your corner, buddy?
All right, so I'm going to do another episode of movies no one has ever heard of. And this particular movie, no joke, is one of my all-time favorite movies. It stars, let me see if you can even guess it. And audience listening, Eric has no idea what I'm going to say. Released in 1979. It stars Harrison Ford and Gene Wilder.
Oh, the Frisco Kid.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, not a lot of people know about this movie. I'm always surprised. I remember when it came out, I remember seeing it I didn't see it in the theater. First time I ever saw it was on Showtime when I was a kid. And it is a great buddy movie. It takes place in the Old West. Gene Wilder is he's a Jewish rabbi coming from Poland. He needs to get to California. He takes a ship that lands in Philadelphia, and he has to get to California. He doesn't know. It'd be like us, in another country. We have no idea where different cities are, in other countries. And but he bumps into Harrison Ford, who is a cowboy. He's a Western robber, but dressed like a cowboy. He's got the cowboy hat. He's got his guns and horses and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a fun, point A to point B buddy movie. And the adventures that ensue, they run into Indians. They run into like these monks. There is just a lot of neat little adventures that happen, and then it has a nice, good story arc to it. I know, I love it. I know some people have. There's some friends of mine that have watched it and said, I thought it was slow. It is a little slow in the beginning. Once you start running, once he meets up with Harrison Ford, then it seems to pick up, and that's about maybe 25 minutes into the film. But I love that film. I would highly recommend it. It's family friendly. Is some of the dialogue is some of the most quotable dialogue my family has ever had. We quote it all the time. We quote scenes. I've showed it to countless numbers of people who have just fell in love with the film too. And we've actually have had parties where everyone comes over and watches Frisco Kid together. And
nice. That's amazing. I love that.
And it was just something I saw on, Showtime back in the day, back in the early 80s. So,
cool. Well, great pick. Great corner. That's awesome. I love that.
Just released on Blu-ray.
All right, cool, man. Well, great pick. Great corner, and another great episode of the Media Tavern. Anything else you want to add to today's festivities?
Other than I enjoy this. I know we both enjoy this, and we are on so many different platforms now.
Yes,
Eric has been working very, very hard at getting us on all different platforms. Why don't you tell everybody where we're at?
So we're out there. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music. We're on Amazon Music. You can find us pretty much everywhere. Just anywhere that's got podcasts, you're probably going to find us. Also, if you have any suggestions or ideas for episodes, feel free to message us at any of the socials. We're out there. You can also email us at themediatavern@gmail.com. For Todd Stanton, I am Eric O. And until next time, get the hell out of here because the Media Tavern is closed.
See you later.